Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'll be doing a speed paint of a piece that I created for Gallery 1988. They asked me to make a small collection of paintings on any theme or subject matter that I wanted for a small online showcase that they featured on their website. So I decided to make 4 pieces based on 8-bit or 16-bit retro video games. So this piece is based off of Kirby's Adventure, and I'll just sort of be talking you through some of the process that I have for creating it. It's really important to get a good tape application when you're doing lots of precise line work and lots of blocked off little sections like I am. So I always make sure to have my cutting board beside me with the tape on, and I take a ruler and an X-Acto knife and I just cut little strips of tape so that it's really fine and easy to apply. Otherwise it's a waste of tape to use like the full thick piece of tape. And it's really important to make sure that you press down all the edges and corners, especially where 2 pieces overlap. Otherwise you might get paint bleeding out underneath, and that is not the worst thing in the world, but it kind of defeats the purpose of putting down tape if you're not going to make sure it sticks properly. So when I do a painting like this, oftentimes the easiest way to start is to just choose one of the main colors, the most prevalent or the lightest color, whatever really calls to me, and then fill in all of that first. So here I decided to take this sort of limey bright green color and just fill in everywhere that that color was used. Usually I mix my colors as I go, so right now I'm just trying to find the right green to match the light green that I've already used. I keep pre-mixed paints in those little plastic pots in my drawer with all my other paints so that I don't waste the paints and so that I can come back and use colors that I've liked before. So it adds a bit of consistency through the paintings. So for example, this one green that I'm using here, I actually use it a couple other times in the other 3 paintings in the series. So it adds a sense of cohesion, more of a streamlined color palette. And you'll notice that as I'm painting these pixels, I'm not trying to be super precise. I have tried to be very precise when I'm painting pixels in the past, and that just leads to too much stress and headache because I'm not a computer. I can't generate perfect squares so easily and so many times. I'm not going to go and tape off each individual pixel because I might go crazy doing that. So I just use a very tiny brush and try my best. There are ways to make it cleaner, like I'm using an X-Acto knife right here to just clean up any of the external edges. Also, I do go back in with the lighter colored paint to sort of carve out the corners of the squares a bit more. But overall, I'm not going to be too fixated on perfection when I'm doing these pixel pieces because that's kind of the point. They are painted by hand, so I don't want to erase the hand-painted feel of them, the artist's touch or whatever. Otherwise, I would just, have a digital piece that was actual digital pixels. I think this flower section is one of the more successful parts of the painting, actually. I really like the way the pixels came out. And as I said before, I like to mix my colors either on the go, or I like to draw from my collection of pre-mixed colors and just find out whichever one works. And I definitely do swatches in my sketchbook here to see how they look with each other. So some colors take more tweaking than others. Another thing that I always make sure to have is like a scrap of paper or a piece of Kleenex on hand. Especially at the start of the painting when I've got all my pencil lines down, I worry that my hand and the oils from my hand will cause the lead to smudge, or the graphite really, and then it'll make sort of a smudgy mess over my painting, and that's especially bad if it goes over somewhere I've already painted. So a simple solution to that is add a Kleenex. Another thing that it's good for, sometimes I'll put Kleenexes on both sides, is that when I'm mixing the paint in that little pot there, I like to add in a bit of water so it has a nice flowing consistency, and sometimes the paintbrush will leave little drops of paint on the wood panel. I mean, it's an easy enough cleanup with a bit of an X-Acto knife or some of the proper paint color, but it's nice to avoid getting needless splatters if I can. I also try to mix the colors with sort of a crappier paintbrush just because they take a lot of abuse. So I will always use a brush that I don't generally paint with, and I will never use one of my teeny tiny brushes because that would just be inefficient. I think my favorite brush is this one that I'm using on the screen right now. It's by Winsor Newton, and it's their Cotman watercolor brushes. I think it's like a, let me see, I have one right here. Oh, I've used it so much that the label is worn off. But I think it's either a 0 or something close to that, but it's a watercolor brush and it's got the blue handle, and it's really nice for medium level precision. I think this brush has gotten a bit splayed out because I've used it so much, but I think I've repurchased it a couple times, and they're definitely one of my favorite types of brushes. This other red brush is another one that I use for very, very tiny work a lot in this piece. I think it's by Blick, so I got it when I lived in the States, but it's, I think, just another 10-0 really tiny detail brush. Another brush that I use often, I don't know if I use it too often in this painting, but I really like it, is my Treacle Golden Taklon liner brush, and I have a set of 3, and they're in 0, 5, 10, or 5-0 and 10-0. So I mean, as far as tiny brushes go, you kind of have to find what works best for you. I find that if they're too short and very small bristles, it can be hard to get a good line. Sometimes the bristles are too sticky and it makes it awkward to get nice smooth flowing lines. So it's really personal preference as far as that goes. So here I am taping off another section. I have a pair of tiny scissors that I use to get in there and make little cuts. It's just easier than trying to work with a larger, more ungainly pair of scissors for this. And I use my pair of tweezers as well to place the tape, sometimes lift off bits of tape, or the other end of the tweezers I use to smooth down the edges. So it's just a good tool to have on hand for a lot of tape work. This cloudy sky section gave me some trouble because I initially painted it first as just smooth shapes, but I realized that I wanted to stick with consistency of making it look like it was pixels, so I had to go back in with a tiny brush and try to create the sort of square cornered look of pixels. I think it was mostly successful. You can see there, it's not perfect, it's just sort of eyeballed, so it's not going to be up to any real pixel artist's standards, unfortunately. And another good instance of using the X-Acto blade. In this case, I'm kind of struggling because I'm going against the grain. It's always easier to remove paint when you're going with the grain. See there, it's a bit more successful. So this video was actually filmed back in October, I believe, when I was still living at my parents' house. My husband and I have since moved out and into our own home, but I haven't had the time to film any videos here, and this video footage has been sitting in my hard drive just bugging away at me because I know I have to edit it and I want to post it, but here I am getting around to finally doing the voiceover, and so hopefully it won't be too long after I've recorded this that I am actually posting this video. And in the future, as I think I've mentioned before, I am excited to show like a studio tour of my little office here. It's not quite finished, but it's definitely the more finished room in the house because I have so many pieces of art that I've already put on the walls, so they really add a sense of completion to a room. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say for this painting. I will just let you sit back and watch the rest of the painting. If you want to see more pictures of how it turned out, you can check my Instagram, and it is also available via Gallery 1988's website if you want to own this actual original piece. There aren't any prints of it, so this would be the only way to get it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will hopefully see you in the next video, which will hopefully be soon.